Good evening, and welcome to the Miracle of Prosperity. I'm your host, Reverend Jim Webb, author of the book, The Soul of Prosperity, as well as the book, 30 P's for Prosperity, Prosperity from A to Z, and Create Your Self Manifesting Vision Board. It's such a joy to be here tonight. For every Sunday at 8 p.m., we explore all the different aspects of prosperity. Because prosperity is more than just money and stuff. Prosperity can be professional prosperity, where, in the words of Florence Scovel Shinn, we have a wonderful job with wonderful pay where we perform a wonderful service in a wonderful way. Prosperity can also be family prosperity, where our family relationships are uplifting and supportive. Prosperity can be relationship prosperity in a broader sense, where all of our relationships are uplifting and supportive. Prosperity could be logistical prosperity, where our lives just work better with less struggle and less hassle. Prosperity could be uh, emotional or spiritual prosperity, where we have the peace that passes all understanding. And of course, financial prosperity, where our finances are no longer a source of worry, but instead are a source of joy, where we have more than enough to spare and more than enough to share. So we look at all of these things every week, and we also look at ways that we can enhance our prosperity or things that we can do to eliminate the blockages to that prosperity. And we all know that that prosperity begins within us and our inner work. And there are also things in the world and the universe that can help us. Now, one of the things that has intrigued me lately, and perhaps it has to do with what's been happening in the sky this weekend, is the relationship of all the planets, planetary movements, and planetary alignments, and how that can impact prosperity. For me, that has been a mystery. So it's been a joy to discover that planetary movements and planetary alignments, as explained in astrology, has some tools that we can use to enhance our prosperity. Now, I must be honest with you. Astrology has always just mystified me. And there was a part of me that always needed to understand what part is astrologically driven and what part is driven by our free will. And it always seemed so complex with this planet rising and this planet falling and this planet twisting and that planet turning. And so I turned to an expert who can make it simple, digestible, and understandable for all of us, who can help us understand how astrological movements, and planetary positionings can impact our prosperity and what we can do to take advantage of these planetary movements for our prosperity. So I asked Reverend Deborah Robinson to join us. So I want you all to let us know that you're there. Say hello to Reverend Deborah Robinson in the comments. And I'm so glad to have you, Reverend Deborah. Welcome to the Miracle of Prosperity.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's so good to have you. And we were talking a little bit in the green room before, and it was fascinating to me how you moved into astrology. And so help us understand just broadly, what is astrology and how does it impact us?
Okay, well, astrology is a science that is 5,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so, being that people have studied the heavens and what's going on in there, like I said, for 5,000 years, so that lets us know that it is solid in what it can say to us because the patterns is what everybody has taken a study with it to know that it can let us know each time what is going to happen. In astrology, we have 12 signs, and we look at those and we look at the planets and we see what's going on, and then from there it can tell us, and we can move from there from place to place. If it's financial, if it's relational, it doesn't matter. It's been a tool that has been used. There's kings that use it, presidents that use it, businessmen that use it. In Forbes, it has says astrologers make billionaires. That's something to think about. So it is a tool that is used widely, and it's
Mm-hmm.
becoming even more prominent now in helping people to sort out their lives. And when it comes to anything that has to do with any type of relationship, just as you were explaining, the different relationships when it comes to prosperity, even emotional. So astrology can definitely do that. It's a roadmap. A lot of people use it for predictions and as
Mm-hmm.
to what's happening. And this, as the saying goes, as above, so below.
Mm. That helps me understand and that helps me put it into context. So, what's going on in the planetary movements has we can actually leverage that for our success, for our prosperity, as businessmen may have done when
Yeah,
the heavens said, "This is a wonderful time to do this," or "This is a time to consider not doing it," based on astrological flows and planetary movements and the energy of the planets. Is that accurate?
that is accurate. Um, the beautiful thing about it, like this, well, it started on the 19th of April when Taurus came into. So when
Mm-hmm.
Aries is the very first astrological sign of the astrological calendar year. So we
Mm-hmm.
did Aries, and so on April the 19th, we moved into Taurus. And so
Mm-hmm.
not only does it is as an astrological sign, then there are sign houses as well. So
Mm-hmm.
Taurus is the second house, and the second
Okay.
house is known as our economics. So Taurus
Okay.
is known as our economics, and this is what I love about Taurus. Each astrological sign has a keyword. Taurus has the keyword of I have. So that's an indication right there that we know that it has to do with I have what? Because it rules our economics, it also rules our food, it
Mm-hmm.
also rules our self worth. Each sign also has a ruling planet. Venus is the ruling planet for Taurus. And right
Mm-hmm.
now, Venus is in Taurus. Jupiter also is in Taurus, and Uranus is also in Taurus. So, with those being in there and our economics, we can look at that, and it's easy to do because all we have to do is look on YouTube. The internet is a great source to find out what's going on a daily
Mm-hmm.
basis in the
Mm-hmm.
astrological world. All you have to do is type it in what you're looking
Mm-hmm.
for, and boom, somebody will come up. And the easiest
Mm-hmm.
way to find somebody, check in with your inner being, because you talked about the in within. Check in with your gut feeling to see if that individual matches what you're feeling, and they can explain it to you. And the majority of astrologers that are on YouTube, they do it in pretty much a basic way. And then there are some who have more in depth things. And so the more you learn, the more you can move with those in depth teachers. Okay,
Yes.
so with Taurus being the economic um, part that we look at, the prosperity part of it, the key thing is it teaches us about self worth. If you're talking
Mhm.
about prosperity and if you don't understand what your self worth is, then you're going to look at the value of everything else because it looks at the material world. And so
Mhm.
you're going to devalue yourself if you don't have that self worth. And that's very important for prosperity. When it comes
Yes.
to the value, the Venus looking at it, but because our value system has really been put in a place where we have it, so we looking at things and it's only about the material world, we get lost in it. So
Okay.
that we have
So
to
if
be
I hear you correctly, Reverend Deborah, what you're saying right now, with all these planets being in Taurus, one of the things that we can do to enhance our prosperity right now is recognize, develop, and enhance our internal self worth.
absolutely.
And this is a good time to, as you said, begin within, look at our internal self worth to optimize the likelihood that we can draw all the prosperity that we desire, and to not place as much value on those things external, but to appreciate, embrace, and enhance our internal self worth. Am I getting that right?
Said it very sweetly. Yes. Yes. Because Jupiter, with Jupiter being in Taurus right now, and it's
Hmm.
only going to be there until the 25th, which is going to then move to Gemini, which is the third astrological sign. But I'm going to talk about it while it's there in Taurus.
Hmm.
Jupiter is that sign that's the planet of luck. It's the
Hmm.
planet of optimism. It's the planet of expansion. It makes everything bigger. Looking at the
Hmm.
big picture. And then there's also a shadow side of it where there's exaggeration, where there's too much of it, where there's fanaticism. So you do have
Hmm.
to be mindful of that extreme. Now, when I
Hmm.
say, like, for instance, overeating,
Hmm.
overdoing, because Taurus
Yes.
rules food. So that's one
Okay.
of the things that we can, because the food now is really good. So we can prosper in that as well. Then you
Hmm.
have Uranus. Uranus is the planet of change, and
Hmm.
change, quick, sudden. It rules lightning, it rules earth events such as earthquakes, volcanoes. So we can see how
Okay.
all of that is, but it also is the radical planet. It is the
Okay.
planet that is upsetting so that we have the ability to be rebellious in a good way. So
Hmm.
we know what our economics have been so far. We want to be able to change that because it has been so conditioned. And now we're looking at the true prosperity, such as what you're teaching and others that have come into enlightenment, that we will have true prosperity of something that we can hold that's tangible to be able to help from generation to generation. And not only that, prosper with our earth, taking care of our earth, because Taurus is an earth sign. Uranus also has to do with freedom, freedom of being able to speak, because Taurus rules our voice. And so
Hmm.
that helps us a lot as well. I was listening to this man, his name is Pete Stavros, and he gave some statistics and said that 70% of the workers in the United States are not happy with their job.
Hmm.
That's big right there. And so that lets us know that we've been conditioned to do work that we have not been happy with. And so astrology is one of the ways that we can begin to look at, to say, what is my true purpose or my true career? What is it that I
Hmm.
really want to do that will
Okay.
be effective for society as well as me as an individual? That goes to the self worth that I'm talking about, that
Hmm.
Taurus is all about. Because if you're
Hmm.
not happy with what you're doing, then you
Right.
are in the wrong thing. But astrology can definitely help you to find out what it is that you do best so that you can prosper in.
Okay. Thank you. That is wonderful. And I think what I take from that is as follows. Number one, with these other three planets in Taurus, there are three things to consider. Number one, consider that our This is a time to explore, examine, enhance your inner directed self worth. We just did a lesson in A Course in Miracles recently that was just so powerful. God is my Father, and He loves His Son. And
Mm.
that lesson was so powerful because it drilled directly into our intrinsic self worth, not because of anything outside of us, but because of that within us.
Yes.
And so this is a good time to polish up on that. The second thing you mentioned was that this was, well, I got the food part of it because that's just how I'm programmed, okay? But one of the things what I took from that was that this is a time to also be in the joy of life. Allow
Yes.
the pleasure principle. Don't go crazy. But this is a time to know that you deserve to enjoy the pleasures of life without
Yes.
going nuts. And and then and then you talked about finding satisfaction. This is a time where if you're not satisfied, it's a time to ask, what would make me satisfied? What would make me happy? And because it is a time to contemplate that radical change from that which you're doing because you don't enjoy it, but you have to that which you can do that brings you more joy. So, if I hear you correctly, the way that things are going right now with Taurus and these other planets in Taurus, these are the things that we can do to enhance our prosperity right now at this time. Is that accurate?
When I tell you that's spot on, Reverend Jim, you did an excellent job of summating that.
Well, it's
Yeah,
wonderful. It's wonderful what you just did because what you just did is you just told us this is how the planets are aligning. This is what it means. And this is what it means for prosperity. And this is how you can use it for your prosperity.
absolutely.
And that was just so excellent. So I'm going to give our guests, our viewers, an opportunity to chew on that. And I'm sure we've got some questions here because I see all kinds of writing in our comments. And so we're going to go to break and we're going to come back and answer some of their questions here on the Miracle of Prosperity.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
And we're back here on the Miracle of Prosperity with Reverend Deborah Robinson, teaching us how astrology can be used as a tool to help us enhance our prosperity. And we have a question from Rosabella Bird, Reverend Deborah, that we'd
Okay.
like you to address. She says, I am a flower child at heart and have been familiar with astrology most of my life. I just don't relate to my sun sign as much as my rising sign. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, our sun sign is how people see us every day. And when it comes to the rising, that's what our soul assignment is to be. So the more you study in regards to what your soul sign is, which is the rising sign, that can take you into more of the inner workings. And so, because the sun sign again has to do so much with our day to day interactions, and that's what people see that we are day to day. So, that is like secondhand, we do it automatically. But when it comes to that soul sign, which again is the rising sign, getting into the depths of it to see how it can enhance the sun sign even the more. So I would say don't be afraid of it. Let that soul perspective come through, and because all you're doing is actually balancing the two. So you've got these sides of yourself. It's like, wow, multi-dimensional is what we are. So not only do we have the sun, not only do we have the rising, then we've got the moon sign as well. So all of those are multi-dimensional parts of us that we can go in-depth studies to find out how we can balance even the more who we are and what we have come here and what our purpose is for in coming.
Okay, so in essence, it's not about one being in the lead and the other one being subjugated. It's about balancing them optimally for each situation. Is that accurate?
It is absolutely accurate.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Reverend Deborah. Now,
Hmm.
I have a question as well.
Okay.
This is something that I've always wrestled with, um, and that is there are tendencies, and this is just my understanding, and I'll give you a little bit of background, okay?
Okay.
I have these books. They're big. I got them on sale when one of the bookstores was going out of business. They're like this big, and they're like this thick, and one is the birthday book and what the birthday book is, and one of them is the astrology of relationships. So what the birthday book is every day of the year. It's a birthday, and it's an astrological reading for that birthday and the tendencies of the person uh, who was born on that date. So being slightly skeptical and not really understanding astrology, since this big coffee table book that retails for like $75, since it was $5 since the bookstore was going out of business, I bought it.
Okay.
And I opened it to my birthday, and I felt like Roberta Flack, strumming my pain with the singers, singing my life with a song, because, because they were reading for people born on my date, September 1st. But it was like they were reading for me. They said, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and this, you have a tendency to do this, and you need to be careful about this. And I'm like, how did they know? It was that amazingly accurate, Reverend Deborah. And but what it talked about was the tendencies, and it helped me a lot because it said you tend to push things right up to the edge, and sometimes you fall over the edge and fall flat on your face. And truer words have never been spoken. And so and so it helped me to realize certain tendencies that I have. And then it helped me to apply my free will, knowing of these tendencies, to keep them in balance. So help us understand how we can manage tendencies and how we can use free will to so that we understand that what it says is not written in stone. Can you help us with that a little bit?
Absolutely. When we look at the astrological signs, and when you say, for instance, you're looking at the horoscope, okay?
Yes.
And when you look at the horoscopes, it does give you a generalization of the collective. Now, when you want to get down to the bare bones of your individual tendencies, then that's when it's best to have a natal chart done. So generally, when we do a natal chart, and that consists of putting your data information in, and then it spits out this beautiful diagram, and we look at what we call aspects, and aspects as to what those tendencies would be for you as an individual, and then as a collective we can look to say that, okay, if you were all born on this particular day, because there are planets that are generational, like Pluto is generational, Uranus is generational, and Jupiter, Saturn, all of those. So that's how we come up with those tendencies that you probably do this and you probably do that. So there is a collective energy that, yes, we all do move in a herd mentality, for lack of a better word, in a good way. But then
Yes.
there are individual traits that break you out. Like we all have different fingerprints. So that's how we are all identified. Nobody, all the billion people on the earth, nobody has the same identical fingerprint. So
Mhm.
our birth chart makes us break out to find those individual points. And then as a collective, we do have some of the same tendencies as a collective.
Okay.
So
That
that's
helps
the
me
easiest
understand.
way I know how to explain it.
Well, that's wonderful, and that helps me understand because my birth date, people on my birth date tend to have these tendencies, many of which I tend to have. But to understand me even more deeply as an individual within that construct, a natal chart, which basically looks at the fact that I was born at 8:48 a.m. and what year I was born on that date, would fine tune it even more to see where I meet these tendencies, where I differ from these tendencies, like a fingerprint.
Yes,
So, in other words, a natal chart helps us to even sharpen our own self understanding so that we
exactly.
can use our own self awareness to enhance our prosperity.
Right.
And, just the example that I give, that helped my self awareness because I do tend to move right up to the line and sometimes tip over it. And when I do, I fall on my face. And so it helped me realize you're tipping up to the line, Jim. Come on, dial it back a little, Jim. Don't fall on your face, Jim. And so that's how I was able to use my free will based on my astrological tendencies. And so, Reverend Deborah, people can recognize their astrological tendencies, but then use their free will to manage them. Is that accurate?
It is accurate. And you made one important statement there when you were talking about awareness. And
Mhm.
awareness is simply becoming an observer of your thoughts. So it does require that we have the ability to slow down for just a few minutes, and or just a few seconds. Say, wait a minute, Deborah, what are you doing here? What? Wait a minute, what are you getting ready to do? And at
Mhm.
that time, that's when the awareness can change the consciousness to say, okay, I need to choose better for my higher self instead of
Yes.
going with something. And one thing that I do love to say all the time, if you choose something that you don't like, you can always choose again.
Yes.
I'm very firm with that. And I use that a lot for myself. I was like, don't forget, Deborah, you can choose
Mhm.
again. And then you're finding out that you're making better choices for yourself. So the more we observe the thoughts or our actions before they become reactions,
Mhm.
we
Yes.
can definitely step back in that few minutes to make a different choice. And so that's where our free will does come in, that we have that ability. And astrology, at least, with the teaching that I received, that free will, that self consciousness part of us, it has to let the observer be turned on and tapped into so that we can make better choices for ourselves.
Mhm. Wonderful. So, astrology can be a tool to help us become aware of our tendencies. So, if there are tendencies that we exhibit that do not help with our prosperity, our awareness can help us to make different and better choices. So,
Right.
astrology can be a wonderful tool in that way too to help us with our prosperity. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. And see, that's
Okay.
one thing about the Taurus energy too, because the
Hmm.
Taurus energy gives us that ability to take a look at the shadow. We call it the shadow
Okay.
of where, especially that self worth, where we are down on ourselves, where we are
Hmm.
having those thoughts that are not enhancing us to grow. And all that's why when mine is, I love the question, who am I? And I love to answer it. And so,
Hmm.
whatever sign we are in for that month, I love to use the keyword. So, again, like with the Taurus, is I have what? So then you can add whatever you want to add on the end of it, which speaks to who I am. Because Aries, its keyword is I am. So
Hmm.
that helps me to be able to keep it in balance when I'm looking at the things that maybe stress us out or the things that don't have the best thoughts, and I can have something to go back to be able to counter at that thought or that's coming through and bring something in better. So I have good self-esteem. Those are things that I say to myself, the affirmation that I am affirming. And so that's one thing that I love about the keywords when it comes to that. Like we're getting ready to go into Gemini on the
Yes.
20th. And so that's
Yes.
about I think.
Mm.
So because it has to do with communication. So everything when it comes to astrology, it does help us to improve on the thoughts that we're having and changing them and shifting them to even the consideration of having prosperity.
Yes. So we're moving into Gemini on the 20th of May. What are the key aspects of Gemini that we need to know that can help us to consider and allow prosperity?
Gemini definitely our communication. And it simply is slowing down because it's ruled by Mercury. So it's very, very fast, very fast. And it's represented by the twin. And the twins are simply the messengers, the God messengers that come through. And so this is where our minds are very intellectual, very, very intellectual. And we have to be mindful of not leaning only to the intellectual part. We have to rely on the divine part that's there as well. So the way
Okay.
that we're communicating, it also has to do with our neighbors. How are we communicating with anybody that we relate to, but especially our neighbors? It has to do with our childhood. It has to do with classmates. It is our teacher. It is that we read, and because it's an air sign, there is reading, reading, reading. People enjoy books, and it can be where people can be a chatty Cathy. That's what I call it.
Okay. I remember that doll. Mhm.
Love to talk. So that's
Yes.
so we can really hone in on our communication skills in our relationships. So when it comes to prosperity, since that's what we're talking about,
Yes.
we can dwell into what's out there with good books that we need to be reading,
Mhm.
YouTube, the internet, and it's also is media journalism. So we'll probably see a big jump and leap in media as if we don't have enough already, but we're going to have more because I understand that there's more social platforms that's on the rise as well. So
Mhm.
this is again being mindful that what's above is happening below too. So we have to be mindful of all of our media, our forms of communication, what we're taking in, what we're listening to. Again, it's very, very fast. So we have to be mindful that we're not sucked in by the misinformation and mistaking it for the truth.
Yes. Interesting, interesting. So, would it sounds like this would be a good time to read up more on prosperity or develop even more of a prosperity consciousness to look at languaging for prosperity instead of saying I have to, I get to, using the language of prosperity by being aware of neuro-linguistic programming and the things that we are saying. And it sounds like it's a time for discerning what is the truth.
Yes.
Okay. So our May agenda might include reading a prosperity book, looking at our languaging, doing neurolinguistic programming as it relates to prosperity. And since communication is key, it might also involve working with what prosperity affirmations we live with in
Right.
May. Would this be a good way to put those tendencies to work for us in our prosperity?
Absolutely, yes. And I wanted to make sure that said this too. We have two happenings every month that are very important. We have the new moon and we
Mm,
have the full moon that happens each month. And you can look at astro-seek.com. It is a wonderful website that has all of the moon movements, the sign movements. It's absolutely wonderful. It's you can use it for agriculture purposes. You can get your birth chart there. The main thing that you need with your birth chart is the time, because you never know what the planetary movement are at that particular time when you were born. So you want to make sure that you have that for accuracy purposes. And if for some reason your time was not documented, we can certainly find that out too. But that's simple. So with these two times of the month, the new moon and the full moon, what we can do is it's a simple practice. During the new moon, this is the time when new ideas, we open ourselves to new ideas, new opportunities that come uh, forward to us. And what it is, you write down what those ideas are, and you can have a running book. Just name it your new
mm,
moon book. And there is, again, a lot of new moon books. You can get them on Amazon that will tell you rituals that you can do, and you can make them simple and you can add as many as you want. And all I do is just light a candle, and I have my little journal when I call it my new moon, and I write down, and you can keep the same ideas that are going if they're working for you. And then during the full moon time, this is the time when you get to look at what's not working, that you're detaching from. So it's ending, letting things go. And that's beautiful how the universe orchestrated that every 15 days we are bringing in our fresh ideas, and then the next 15 we're letting them go. So this is a good time to do that. And I saw where somebody wanted to know the website again, and it's AstroSeek, ASTRO-SEEK.com, astroseek.com. And that's a wonderful one that you can find easy, simple, basic information in.
wonderful, wonderful. And I love, we talked about that a little bit in the green room, and I loved that. Simple things that you can do to enhance your prosperity and leverage the astrological likelihoods. Write down your new desires, write down your new goals, write down your new creations during the new moon, And at the full moon, let go of that which is not working for you. That's how you can use the astrological cycles to leverage more prosperity. So, what a wonderful wealth of information you are offering us. And we're going to go to break in a moment, and we're going to come back with just a little bit more and some surprises here on the New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And we're back here on the Miracle of Prosperity with Reverend Deborah Robinson, astrologer who is helping us to understand how planetary movements and positions can impact our prosperity, and how, when we understand that, we can use astrology as a tool to enhance all aspects of our prosperity. And so we thank you so much for the tips you've given us so far in terms of the moon being in terms of the Taurus cycle right now and the Gemini upcoming, and how we can use those to enhance our prosperity. Thank you also for the what we can do each new moon to support our prosperity, and what we can do each full moon to let go of that which is not working for us anymore on our quest for creating and manifesting our prosperity. Reverend Deborah, what additional words of wisdom do you have for us on how we can use astrological astrology to support us in our prosperity journey?
Again, like I said, there is a wealth of information on the internet, which is innovation and creativity all day long. You can
Mm,
find all sorts of information from, again, from the simple to the most complicated. And I like it
mm,
simple. So I'm
yes.
constantly there with the self studies that I do in the basics of finding. And now I did my first studies with Deborah Silverman, and it's Debra and Silverman, and it's called Applied Astrology. She comes on every day where she gives what the planetary actions are. You can find it through astrologyanswers.com. So again, just check out any of the YouTubes or just some of those websites that I have mentioned to dig in, to investigate, to find out, does that sound like me? How can that help me? And it will help because it breaks it down very simple. When Deborah does it, it's like she'll tell if a baby was born on this particular day, this is what you have and can expect out of that child. So it's very interesting. So that would be my main suggestion. And just simply remember that when it comes to looking at what we're looking for in our astrology, as far as prosperity is concerned, it is Taurus because it is our economics that touches our lives from day to day. And don't forget the most important thing, that self worth. The more we put the value on our self worth, which comes from within, not the material things that we've been seeing that marks our value. There was this man that gave this definition of valuing things that I will never ever forget. And he was like, do you know we're the ones who give value to things? And I was like, wow. For instance, somebody could say that my little rock, which is a stone, is worth $1 million. And I'd be like, it's worth $1 million. I'm going to the store. So
Yes.
if it's just a piece of stone to me that has no value, but if somebody comes and says that piece or my art piece behind me is like, that's worth $5 million. So whatever somebody else says is the value of something is what we believe. But what do we believe about ourselves? We are very divine and we're very, very valuable. So the more that we put the value in its right perspective, I believe and I have found out that we will have more prosperous lives, not based on what we've been told and conditioned. That just looks like, and like I said, 70% of people are not happy with their prosperity because they're doing it somebody else's way. Just think, if we tap into our divine selves, oh my goodness, then the teachings that we're offering here, we can have better lives than what we are having.
Beautiful. Thank you for that wise advice for our viewers. And thank you for all of the wisdom that you've shared today. So, what are you working on these days, Reverend Deborah?
Well, I'm getting busier, and it's like,
Mm,
wow. So I'm a newbie to the technology part. So getting that done, I'm used to people right in my surroundings coming and sitting at my kitchen table to be
hmm
able to do the birth charts and go over them. But now it's like word is spreading. It's like, ooh, am I ready for this?
yes, yes.
Yeah, so learning the technology part of it is what I'm working on so that people that are far distance that I can be able to use that technology to be able to share with them as well. Because I don't know what it is about my kitchen table. I just love it when people are sitting across from me. But again, you having the ability to use the innovations that are been created by wonderful people that no space is too far to reach. So learning the technology to be able to reach more people to help them to have that individual spark of light that they are and bettering their lives through learning one of the tools, and that's astrology.
Wonderful. So, you're making yourself available to more people due to the internet. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
wonderful. Wonderful.
So
Sounds like
what's
you're
one
working
more
on
thing
some.
going on with you?
Well, I've got a new set of classes coming up, and this is more than a class. We're doing a summer intensive on manifestation. It's eight
Ooh.
weeks instead of six. It's two classes for the price of one. And the first is Spirit Speaks More on manifestation because Spirit is continually manifesting. I mean, continually downloading more. And speaking of astrology, I was talking to a fellow today, and he was talking about Carl Sagan. And one of Carl Sagan's books, uh, Carl Sagan said that the light that is coming to the earth today actually started its journey towards the earth before mankind was even formed.
Wow.
And that blew my mind. And the way that it blew my mind, that made me understand why we're continually getting new information, because there's so much more information out there and we are continually growing into it. So Spirit is downloading all this new information on manifesting. And that's what these 8 weeks are going to be. Spirit speaks more on manifestation, all this new information on how you can manifest your desires. And that's coupled with another class that I'm doing on Thursdays for 8 weeks, and that is more manifestation methods. Because the other thing Spirit has been downloading to me is more ways to manifest, more tools to use to manifest, more techniques with which you can manifest. So this is an 8 week checkup, because we did our vision boards in January, and Spirit's been after me to do my new vision boards because everything on my vision boards from January is done. And so and so it's this mid-year checkup where we work with our manifestation. It's actually 8 weeks instead of 6. It's actually 2 hours on Mondays and Thursdays instead of 90 minutes. And it includes a free, but not a, yeah, it's a free 20-minute individual session with me. And this is a part of the class as well, that you get a free 20, and that's a $50 value. So this is what's happening in the next few weeks. You can go to my website or you can use my number, text me for more information. But this summer prosperity intensive, the summer manifestation checkup is going to be so amazing and so powerful. Now, the other thing that I do is that if you can't participate if you can't participate at the times, we record them and you can get the recordings. So if you want to get only the recordings without participating real time in the classes, you can do that. You can audit the classes at a reduced price. So there's a lot I said, but the essence of it is this summer we're going to do a manifestation intensive and put all this new information and all these new tools to work for us. So that's what
Oh,
I'm working on, Reverend Deborah.
awesome.
Yes, awesome, absolutely. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. I want to thank you on behalf of our viewers as well. We've thoroughly enjoyed you and we appreciate you. And you'll have to come back and visit us again here on the New Thought Media Network. Good night, everyone.